Hello. So you guys speak English, right? No. First of all, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really excited to be the keynote speaker for Agile Korea. So I want to start with talking about this is a simple question. Let's just see if you guys are awake. Does the Earth revolve around the sun, or does the sun revolve around the Earth? So if you think that the Earth revolves around the sun, please stand up. If you're not standing up, you either missed the translation or you're not awake. So we would all agree today, we all know that the Earth goes around the sun, correct? Yes? But if I ask this question in the 1400s, people would be, no, the sun revolves around the Earth. It's very clear. And between the 1500s and 1600s, people would be confused. Because actually, this Copernican revolution, this idea that the Earth revolves around the sun or the sun revolves around the Earth, was debated for 270 years. And if you were living in those 270 years, you would be confused. Is it the Earth around the sun or the sun around the Earth? I don't know. Today, we are facing something similar. We are facing what I call the Copernican revolution in management and in business. And this is from the work of Steve Denning. And the idea here is, if you think about before, it was the center of the universe was the company, and the customers revolved around the company. The company could do whatever they want, and the customers had to be okay with it. The power was with the company. However, the revolution is that actually the customer is the center of the universe, and companies revolve around it. And this is easy to say, but very hard to implement. And one of the things that has really changed and was a factor in this is the internet and globalization. 100 years ago, if you wanted to buy something, you didn't have a choice. You went to whatever company offered that, the closest to you, and that was it. Today, you, in your hands, have access to reviews, to authentic data from around the world. Before you buy something, you can actually chat with people that bought it before, ask questions, and make a decision, and compare that to hundreds of other products around the world as you are walking down the street. One of the areas this is most evident in, I would say, is customer service. I don't live in Korea, but in America, I've been on this call a lot, where I'm calling someone, I'm very frustrated, very angry, and the other person is reading from a script, and they have no idea how to satisfy me, and I am just red and angry. You felt that before? Yes. It's a global issue, right? You guys know United Airlines? Anyone? Yeah? Okay. So I fly United a lot of times, but I don't like them. In 2007, a musician was flying United Airlines, and he had a tailored guitar, and he was forced to check in the guitar instead of putting it inside the airplane. And as he was sitting in the airplane, he looked out of the window and he saw the baggage handlers throwing the guitar. So he rushed to the stewardess and told her, please help me. They're throwing my guitar. She said, please sit down, right? And if you have an issue, talk to the customer service when you get to your destination. Long story short, the guitar was broken. And after he arrived, it took him 1 year. He went into a 1-year argument with United Customer Service for 2 things. $450 and an apology. Just say, I'm sorry. They said no. So he went to YouTube and created a song called United Breaks Guitars.
United Breaks Guitars.
This song went to #1 on YouTube. Close to 20 million views. It was #1 on iTunes. United lost $200 million in market value because of this song. Now when we think, and you know last year, right, where they grabbed a man off the plane, overnight, their market value went down $1 billion. Who has power? Customer. This is a new world we're in. When a customer gets upset at a company and can go to YouTube, post a video, and make the company lose $200 million, the power has shifted. Right? So keep that in mind, the Copernican revolution. I hope it doesn't take us 270 years to realize this. The other thing is the speed of innovation. Today, innovation is so fast. When we look at this Copernican revolution, one thing to realize is if you as a company are not fighting for your customer, someone else will come and fight. And the barrier to entry today is much lower than it used to be. You can start any project, application, or business overnight today. And if you're not thinking of that one company, you better be thinking because there's more than one. And so when a company is still in the old mindset of, I am a company, I will provide products and services, you customer come to me, other companies are like, no, we're going to fight for this customer and we're going to build something better. And this is really this transition between a culture that is focused on itself, on the company and the product, versus a culture that is focused on a customer. In the customer-centric culture, we ask, what does our client need to get done and how can we help? Versus asking what products or services can we sell. Instead of asking, what relationship do we need to establish? We ask the other question, what relationship does our client expect us? What is the experience that the client expects? When I call customer service, I don't expect pressing on 15 numbers, right? And then at the end, someone tells me, sorry, it's a different department. That's not my expectation. Customer-centric cultures ask, what value do our clients need to see before they are willing to pay money? Not asking, how can we make money off of our clients? This is a shift. And one of the stories I want to tell you is that of Riot Games. Who knows Riot Games? All right, excellent. It's Korea, I get it. A lot of other places in the world I go, it's like one person. It depends where, yes. Because I'm usually talking to a professional audience. When I say League of Legends, they're like, I know my kid talks about it. But anyway. So, with Riot Games, you remember that picture where we had the Copernican revolution? We had that company X? That's where this started. It started with two founders that really cared about the customer. And who was the customer? The customer was core gamers. Right? Very specific. We will focus on people that, for them, gaming is a life pursuit. It's a lifestyle. Okay? That's the focus. And again, these two founders didn't start businesses before. They didn't know how to build games. They were just gamers. But because the speed of innovation and the barrier to entry, all you have to have is a passion to fight for a customer. And you can build something like League of Legends. And so we are defined by our audience, which are core gamers, and the mission of Riot is all about we aspire to be the most player-focused game company in the world. Now, you may know this about Riot, but what I'm going to show you next is a little bit of our DNA. How do we make this a reality? It's easy. There's not a single company in the world that I have worked with and they say, we don't care about the customer. Every company says we care about the customer. But how? Let me show you. This equation we use every day at Riot. Every single day. When you're faced with a decision, is this good for the company or good for the player? There's no debate. Whatever's good for the player is more important than what's good for Riot. And what's good for Riot is more important than an individual team. And an individual team is more important than an individual. Some of you may say, but wait, don't you care about individuals? We care deeply about individuals. And we care even deeper about teams, about Riot, and about players. So this idea of being customer-centric, this idea of putting the customer in the center of the universe has to have some way that you see this day to day in your organizations. And this is really at the heart of agility. Why? Because if the customer is the center of the universe, and as the demands and needs of the customer change, who needs to move? The company. Right? So agile means flexible, nimble, able to move and navigate. And a company needs to be agile because if you're not, there's another company that will come and serve that customer better than you. Because we today are in the middle of the 270 years changing from organizations that are centered around themselves to organizations that are centered around the customer. And companies that don't make this transition, I fear, will not be in business. And so this agility that we talk about is not a nice to have, it's a must have. And at the core of this is learning. Because if I'm so focused on the customer changes every day. Their needs, behaviors, and want change. You, as customers, hear about something from your friends or from a magazine or from a TV or from the internet, and you're like, now I like this. Right? We change every day. And so if we change, companies need to be able to learn and change as fast as we do. And this brings me to a story that I want to tell you. Can I tell you a story? we'll keep it between us. Yes? No? We'll see. This is the story of how I joined Riot Games. So before Riot Games, I was a consultant. I had my own consulting company. I was helping large organizations become agile. 5,000, 10,000 people, how do they become agile? And one day I was training, and someone from Riot Games was in the audience. They came up to me and said, "This is very cool, can we hire you?" I'm like, "Who are you?" We started talking, and he said, "Come visit us in California." I'm like, "Sure." I used to live in Virginia, so that's on the East Coast, snow and humidity. I'm like, I will go to California any day. So I went to California, I visited Riot Games, it was beautiful. It was the first time I got to know what's happening there. And I got to meet the two founders. And they asked me, "Come do a project for us for 3 months, help us align our leadership." They were growing very fast at this time, right? And as we start to grow, there's more and more misalignment happening around our leadership, so help us. Okay, why not? So after doing some interviews, working with the two founders, Mark and Brandon, I came up with this crazy idea. And the idea was, let's do an offsite with 200 Riot leaders to help them align and debate on some of the core values and principles they have. Good idea? Very bad. Okay? This was a 2-day offsite. By lunch of day 1, everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was a shit show. Can I say that? I said it. All right? It was very, very bad. People were standing up, shouting, leaving, and saying, "This is a waste of our time." I was sweating, right? And we regrouped at the end of day 1. Day 2 was a little better. That was a Thursday, Friday. Monday morning, I get an email from the co-CEO, Mark, one of the founders. He says, "Let's have lunch." What does that mean to any one of you? You're fired, right? You agree. So I go to have lunch, and he's doing, "How are you doing?" I'm like, I can take it. And he's like, "Okay, we want to hire you." I'm like, "What? Why would you want to hire me?" I was looking around for cameras. Maybe this was like a joke or something, right? I'm like, "Why would you want to hire me? To torture me for eternity? For, like, why? Why would you want to hire me?" And he said this. He said, "Listen, what we did, we took a risk. This was very risky to bring 200 leaders at Riot together to debate something." And he's like, "We didn't think it would work." I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he's like, "But maybe it would work." He's like, "We want leaders that are willing to take risks. We want leaders that are not afraid to fail, that are aiming big and trying big things." And in my head, I'm like, wow. Because for the past 15 years, what I was trying to create in companies was this culture of learning. So many companies say, we want to create a fail-safe environment. We want people to innovate, right? A lot of companies say that. But then we punish failure. But this here, I was a consultant, and they were dignifying this try, and they said, "Actually, we see the learning and good here, we want you to join the team." So I sold my company, I moved my family from Virginia to California, and it's been 4 amazing years. And every day I am learning, and I'm helping make sure that we continue to have a culture of learning. But when we talk about culture, what is culture? Everyone talks about culture these days, yes? We need to change our culture. Culture, 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 culture. But what is culture? And so this is a model that I developed to try and imagine what culture is. And culture for me is this rubber band. You know what a rubber band is, right? It's shaped by the elements inside of it. Leadership, their habits, style, mindset, strategy, how we make decisions, how we evaluate, how we reward. What is our measures of success? Structure, the organizational structure, how are we siloed, roles and responsibilities, processes, systems, and then people, us, our mindset, our values, our habits. All of that together is culture. Yes? How do you say yes in Korean? Yeah? I can speak Korean, see? Okay. But here's what happens. We hear about Agile at conferences like this. We're like, yes, we want to be customer-centric. We want to be Agile. We're going to change. But what do we change? We change this, process. Right? We push process. We now make a more collaborative process. We want you to do stand-ups and sit-downs and sticky notes and this and that. But nothing else has changed. Right? So strategy is still the same. Leadership is still the same. People and their beliefs are still the same, but we just have a collaborative culture. No, you don't have a collaborative culture. You have a process that promotes collaboration. But it's not in alignment with the rest of the culture. So what you actually have is resistance. Whenever you find in your company resistance, know that something is not aligned. It's not connecting. Okay? Now, I want you to notice something. Of these 5 things, the 3 in the middle, strategy, structure, and process, they're non-human. They're things. However, when we look at leadership and people, those are human elements. What I have seen most of the time, unfortunately, is a lot of transformations focus here. They try to change strategy, structure, and process, but without changing how people believe, the values, the habits of people. And so what I want to tell you is the successful transformations I have seen start with people. Leadership and people. And the reason I separate leadership is leadership has a huge impact because they are imitated. Whatever leaders do, the rest of the organization will adopt. They set the culture. At the heart of the human element is mindset. Let's talk about mindset. You guys ready? Yeah? Okay, all right. The work of Carol Dweck, she's a professor at Stanford University. The idea here is that people are born, right? People have, not are born, but people have one of 2 mindsets. A fixed mindset or a growth mindset. So if you ask me, Ahmed, can you sing? My answer is, no, I have a horrible voice. If I say that, that means that I believe my ability to sing is static. It can't change. I have a horrible voice, thank you very much, I'm not even going to try. It can't change. It was determined at birth. Now, by the way, if you ask me, Ahmed, can you sing? And I say, no, but you can teach me. Then I believe that and you can put between brackets whatever you want. My ability to sing can be developed. My true potential is unknown and unknowable. The more I practice, the better I will get. I could become the new Beyonce. Maybe, maybe not. Probably not. That was a joke. Okay. All right. But here's the interesting thing. If you ask me, Ahmed, can I sing? And I say, yes, I have a beautiful voice. Is that fixed or growth? Come on. Fixed? Yes. I believe I have a beautiful voice and it is fixed, which is extremely dangerous. Because here's what happens. Then I have a desire to look good, to demonstrate, to sell what I have, and many times oversell it. Which means that I'm going to avoid failure. Which means that I'm going to stick to what I know. Which means when you come to give me feedback, I'll tell you no, thank you. Which means I don't change. However, if I have a growth mindset, what happens is I know I can develop it. I may be good, but I want to become great. So I try new things. I'm open to learn. I don't look at effort as a waste. No. Now, let's forget singing and dancing. Let's talk about work. If we're going to be customer-centric, if we're going to learn all the time, here's what's going to happen. We're going to be faced with unknowns, things that we don't know how to do. And this is at the heart of it. When you're faced with uncertainty and unknowns, what is your behavior? Your behavior. Don't think about other people. Your behavior. When faced with uncertainty, do you reduce the risk of failure by forcing things to a known state? Let me give you an example. Have you ever known anyone a boss or someone, who succeeded at a job, moved to a different company or a different department, tried to do the exact same thing there here, and is failing and is not taking any feedback? You've ever met someone like that? Yes? That is a fixed mindset at work. I know one way to do it, and I'm going to do it. Right? And I'm getting feedback, no. Why? Because, by the way, this is very deep. Because we are hired at our works because we're competent at something. But yet, in the world we live in, there will be new things that come our way that we don't know how to do. Your behavior at that moment of learning is fixed or agile. The agile mindset, when faced with uncertainty, still needs to reduce that risk, but by learning quickly, by raising the hand and saying, I don't know how to do this. Let me try something out. Let me fail quickly. Now, people aren't born with one of these mindsets. It's all about conditioning, right? It's all about how we talk to each other in a company. If I say, you need to get it right, does that give me any learning room? Does that give me any room to learn? It's like, you got to get it right. Right? I'm scared now. What if I get it wrong? What's going to happen? Right? So we could have hired people with an agile mindset, but the behaviors of the company actually move them to a fixed mindset. The first part of this transformation is our own mindset. Understanding that we can learn whatever we want. That doesn't mean we go and learn everything. That's a waste of time, right? But we can learn. And we're not afraid to try new things. We're not afraid to take risks. Yeah? Give me something. Feedback. Okay, good. Takes a minute for the translation to come. Let's give a round of applause to those translating right now, because they're keeping up with me. See, that's how I know they're translating. So Agile is a way of working in a culture of learning. If we're going to have a culture of learning, I want you to imagine this for a second. I go out and I learn about my customer. And I have these new insights. The customer now wants ABC. I go to change what I'm building, the process says no. We've already locked down our requirements. You've signed off. you can't change. Wait a minute, but I just learned something about the customer. Put a change request in, right? This is not valuing the learning that we just took. So if we want to have a culture of learning, we have to have an agile way of working so that I can take these learnings and implement them. But if every time I learn something it's fixed and I can't change anything, then why learn? Is this making sense? This is very critical. Agile is a way of working in a culture of learning. And that's why when I look at what Agile is, it's this mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking when I don't know how to do things, how will I learn about it? I will try something out. I'll fail fast. I'll slice it into small slices. I'll communicate with other people. That is the mindset. Defined by values and principles and then manifested. It shows up through an unlimited number of practices. Daily stand-ups, retrospectives, iterations, blah, 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 blah. And we hear terms like Scrum, extreme programming, blah, blah, blah. These are all bundles. Some of these practices put together as a recipe. That's what it is. But here's the dangerous thing. It's when people do Agile and are not Agile. People are doing the stand-ups. People are doing the iterations. People are doing the practices, but their mind hasn't changed. They still are afraid to learn. They are still afraid to ask for help. They are still afraid to take risks. And they still value what we fixed over what we learned. That's the mindset. If you're doing 2-week iterations and DevOps and blah, 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 but you get a change request and you're like, I don't like change, then you're not Agile. Because we have to value this learning and get excited. It's like, yes, I learned something new. And you know what? Most learning happens after you ship something. You show it to the customer and they're like, no, that's not what I want. At that moment, your mindset shows if you're being Agile or doing Agile. And there's a journey to get there. It's called Shuhari. And the idea is this. If you've never cooked, let's say, who here has cooked lasagna before? 2 people. We're in Korea. Why would you cook lasagna? I get it. But let's just say you woke up in the morning and said, I want lasagna. Okay? You're not going to just open the fridge and like, I feel this. I know how to do it. No. You're going to go on the internet. You're going to get a recipe. You're going to look at the ingredients. You're going to buy exactly those ingredients. You're going to follow the videos in the recipe, right? And hope that something comes out that tastes and looks and smells like lasagna. And if it does, yes, success. You agree? That's called shu. That's following the rule. You don't know how to do it? Listen to me. I will tell you. Okay? Now, I do lasagna again and again, and now I start to understand there's not one recipe for lasagna. But actually, if I miss this ingredient, it's still lasagna. But if I miss this ingredient, it's not lasagna. I don't know what it is. So this is when we go to ha. We're breaking the rule now. We understand the variations of it. And then there's ri. Ri is when I'm just cooking lasagna. Right? And I'm adding things and I'm changing and I'm tasting and I'm like, let me try this. Right? And then people ask you, what did you put? You say, I don't know. because I was just cooking. Mastery. Shu-ha-ri. Where is agility? Anyone? Shu-ha or ri? Ri. Let me tell you why. What is agility again? Flexibility, right? Yes? When you're following the recipe, are you flexible? No. Whatever the recipe says. Ha is interesting. I call it optionality. You have options. Right? It's on a journey, yes. But re is really where agility is. Because, you know what? You could add too much salt and you're like, okay, I know how to fix this. Right? A lot of people come ask me, how do I do Agile with fixed budgets or fixed deadlines? Wrong question. You need to do Agile because you have constraints. Right? The whole point of agility is, I want you to think about it like this. If I'm Agile, you can throw anything my way and I will be able to navigate it so I can get value to my customer. But if I have no obstacles, no constraints, you don't need to be Agile. Why? Doesn't matter. But the more constraints and obstacles you have, the more Agile you need to be. But can I start at Re? Anyone, can you start at Re? You've never cooked lasagna and like, I feel this, I know how to do it? No. You have to start at Shu. And here's the dangerous part. You start at Shu, you get stuck. You learn one way of doing things, like, this is the only way to be flexible. What? You learned one way. He's like, yes, I must do the 2-week iterations. But why? Because the book says so. That's Shu level. I encourage people to break the shoebox and move to Ha and move to Re. That's how you create a culture of learning. You know when you're stuck in Shu, how do you know that? When people ask you, what do I need to do? Tell me what I need to do to be Agile. What? I'll give you a recipe to start with, but you have to learn how to cook. Okay? Shuhari? All right. So where do we start? How do we get started? So I'm going to talk a little bit about product management, and then we're going to go to Agile transformation. So we agree that we want to delight our customer. Yes? Yeah? Okay. Now, some people may say, but wait, does that mean, customer, tell me what you want, I go build it. Tell me what you want, I go build it? Wait a minute, that's not how it works. You're right. It's not how it works. What you need to do is build a bold new world for your customer. You need to have the vision. You guys heard of vision statements? Yeah? Vision statements? Hello? Yes? Okay. So here's a vision statement from Ford, 1905. This is their vision statement. Does it inspire anyone in this room? If it inspires you, raise your hand. 2 people. Great. We will succeed as a company. No? I want to read to you, not their vision statement, but something called vivid descriptors. It's the secret sauce. I'm going to read it now. The vision is democratize the automobile. Their vivid descriptors are, we will build a motor car for the great multitudes. It will be so low in price that no man making a good salary will be unable to own one and enjoy with his family the blessing of hours of pleasure in God's great open spaces. When we are through, everyone will be able to afford one. The horse will have disappeared from our highways, and the automobile will be taken for granted. Does that inspire you? No one? Okay, so the whole experiment failed. Great. So for me, this inspires. This explains what the vision is. Let me give you another example here. So, a vision statement by itself usually will not inspire. However, vivid descriptors will. Here's an example from Sony in the 1950s. Their vision has become the company that most changes the worldwide image of Japanese products as being of poor quality. The vivid description. We will create products that become pervasive around the world. We will be the first Japanese company to go into the American market and distribute directly. We will succeed with innovations like the transistor radio that American companies have failed at. 50 years from now, our brand name will be as well known as any on earth and will signify innovation and quality that rivals the most innovative companies anywhere. Made in Japan will mean something fine, not shoddy. Do you see the power of a vivid descriptor? It brings everyone together to understand where we need to go. Okay, so keep that as one thing, vision. Okay? Number two, I want to introduce some terms very quickly. Output. Output are things that we produce. Software, PowerPoint, whatever it is, things that we produce. Cars, those are all output, yes? Okay. Outcome is a behavioral change. So buying is a behavior. Selling, using, those are all behaviors. When I say people are happy, that's not a behavior. That's a feeling. If people are happy, what do? They tell other people. Okay, that's a behavior. Recommendations. Okay? Yes? So, let's say, we're going to do a quick example here. Let's say we're going to all build a book. We're going to write a book called The Agile Mindset. That's the output, yes? What's the behavioral change? What's the outcome? Could be anything, right? We don't know, and we're actually guessing. Why? Because we focus on the output. We're guessing what behaviors will happen. But flip the equation for me. So if we start with the outcome, and we say that our audience, very specifically, are business leaders that are not yet bought into Agile. And the behavior that we want to see is they promote an Agile mindset in their organizations, they screen new talent for the growth mindset, and they encourage people to take more risks. Those are specific behaviors. Yes? You're with me? Now the question is, what do we build to achieve these outcomes? Very different equation. And this is really what we call anchoring, aspiration, and assessment. What do you anchor in? What is the measure of success in your team and organization? Is it output or outcome? What do you assess? Your measures. Is it about time, budget, and velocity? That's output. Or is it about the customer? Do you see how we talked at the beginning about the Copernican revolution? Everyone says we focus on the customer. Yet, when we go deep into it, we focus on the product. We're asking every day about the product, the thing that we're building, not about what happens to the customer. Here's an example. Look at the top row. This is how you build things when you're focused on output, even if it's in an Agile way. This is doing Agile, top row. Why? Because the focus is still on what? The book. So if I'm going to build a book, Iteration 1 is chapter 1. Iteration 2 is chapter 2. You bring all of it together, you get a book. The bottom row is different. The bottom row is about outcome. It's not about the book. It's about what? It's about the behavioral change that comes from the book. Okay? Then the question becomes, what is the smallest thing that I can build to achieve this behavioral change? It's not a chapter, it's a blog post. And from that blog post, I will get feedback where people say, I like it, I don't like it. And I will start building, but at every point, I am focused on what? The behavioral change. And so, one more word here, impact. Impact comes from the vision. When we want to achieve a vision, there's usually big changes that we need to make. So, behavioral changes usually happen on a person. I buy, I use. But what if 1,000 people bought? What if 10,000? What if 1,000,000 people bought? That's impact. Okay? Now, let me bring this together. You guys know Tesla? Heard of Tesla? Excellent. So Tesla's vision is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Wow. Big vision. How are we going to do that? What is the impact that we need to have? Well, here's one of them. The impact we need to have is that the world stops relying on fossil fuels for transportation. Ooh, huge. How are we going to do that? Well, here's a behavior. I want an audience who, a new car purchaser, someone's going to buy a new car. I want them to buy an electric car even if it's more expensive. How are you going to do that? I'm going to build a car that looks like this. Tesla optimizes for desirability. People want the technology inside, the design, the customer service, desirability. Why? Because I have a behavior. I want people to buy the car even if it's more expensive. Now, here's a different outcome. To actually achieve my impact, I want other car manufacturers to build more electric cars. Wait a minute, how are you going to do that? I'm going to open my patents to the world. But you see how it's all driven towards what? Impact, behaviors, vision. Those become the anchor, not, good morning, I have a good idea. No. It's not about the product, it's about the customer and the vision we have for that customer. And so the idea is minimum output, maximum outcome. All right? And this is what we do with Agile teams, by the way. A lot of people ask me, how do you balance top-down, bottom-up, governance, right? Budgets. It's all based on outcome. I can tell a team here, let me give you an outcome and $2 million in 6 months. Go build something. And actually, we do this. So at Riot, we have what's called outcome canvases. We say, here's the target audience, here's the needs, the opportunities, the pain, here's the behavioral change we want to see, here's the measures of the outcome, here's the impact it should have. Team, you figure out what to build. Once you do that, you've encouraged learning at the team level. Look, all those connect back. How do you encourage a team to learn and not ask, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? It's by making sure you can't tell them what to do. So here's the behavioral change. I'll tell you that. But what do I build? You figure it out. And so they have to learn and experiment within constraints, forcing them to be agile. Okay. So let me talk very quickly about the transformation journey. How do we get there? There's an analogy I like. It's called strawberry jam. You guys know strawberry jam? You like strawberry jam? No? Sorry about that. Nothing I can do to help you there. How do you create strawberry jam? You bring strawberries, right? But you don't just bring strawberries and put them in a bowl and say, be jam, right? These strawberries, the way I look at strawberries, these are agile teams. Teams that are doing agile. An agile organization is not a bunch of agile teams. It's different. An agile organization is strawberry jam. An agile team is strawberry. To create strawberry jam, you put all the strawberries together, and you do what? You heat them, you put sugar, right? And you wait. Takes a long time. Because it transforms. And by transformation, I mean it cannot return back to its old state. You cannot have strawberry jam and say, let me go back to strawberries. Doesn't work. It's all now one piece. That transformation is what we're talking about. Okay? Now, how do we transform? It's a comprehensive culture transformation. What's culture? Remember that rubber band we talked about. Okay? So let's put all this together. So we're going to change our culture. We want to go from an industrial age mindset and culture to a knowledge age mindset and culture. You guys with me? I hope so. Okay. Here's common ways to do this. Way number one is people change the process. And when they change the process, the hope is that by changing the process, other things will change over time, and we will get to the new culture. I have not seen that one work. Approach number two. I am sick and tired of this. My team will become agile. Right? I don't care about anyone else. I'm agile. Okay? And the hope there is that by doing that, you'll attract other people. But here's what really happens. Everyone starts doing whatever they want, and they call it agile. Complete chaos. Right? So, it doesn't really work this way. Now, it's interesting. Within big organizations, I've seen a whole organization become agile. That's interesting. But it won't bring everyone together unless this organization has a lot of influence. Now, here's the alternative to this. When big organizations scale and become agile, they focus on moving 1,000 people forward 1 foot at a time instead of moving one person 1,000 feet. Don't take one team to Agile, the promised land, and we're done. Take the organization on a transformational journey. The way it looks is this. You want to move the entire culture. So you want one step at a time. You want to do change across strategy, structure, process, people, leadership, everything. Right? And so what you're actually changing over time is leadership and organizational habits and behaviors. Let me give you a recipe. Even though I told you, remember, shu ha ri. You want to go to ri, but we have to start at shu. So I'm going to give you a shu level recipe to transformation. Are you ready? Okay. Here's your recipe. Vision, outcomes, and culture. Any questions? No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you more. So, number one is vision. Inspire people. Win the hearts and minds. This is not a compliance transformation. This is not a new system that I'm going to put in place and audit everyone if they're doing it. This is a change of hearts. I need to be able to learn and be okay with failure and be okay with challenging. So you need, as a leader, to articulate what the vision is. Here's a sample one. This is an example. But if you're going to go and do an agile transformation, everyone needs to know, for example, Here's our vision. A unified global team delivering a delightful experience every day. Silos are no longer tolerated. We are one team across the globe. Collaboration will be in our DNA. We will invest time to collaborate together and ruthlessly prioritize the work that will bring the most value and delight to our customers. Feeling safe to learn through failure and agile enough to change daily, we will listen to feedback and welcome change because we believe innovation is grounded in a brave culture of learning. Our energy comes from knowing we can and we will deliver a bold new world for our customers. We will do the impossible for them and challenge anyone who says we can't. The highest caliber talent will come knocking at our doors to join our mission. Our workplace feels different. Everything just works. There's no noise anywhere. Do you see that? That's a vision. When you say, I'm going to do an agile transformation, everyone needs to know what it looks like. That's step one. Okay? Step two, identify the impacts and outcomes. So let's do that. So our vision, a unified global team delivering a delightful experience every day. Yes. What is the impact? Similar to Tesla. What do we need to do? We need to behave as one team. Wow, that's hard. So many companies are siloed, right? Leaders need to operate as a single team, not from a siloed mindset. We focus on holistic customer experiences. We celebrate teams, not individuals, right? Et cetera, et cetera. How are we going to do that? Well, there's behaviors. People reach out outside of their department and business units to help each other when working on common goals. Another outcome, team members take initiatives and do things outside of their defined role instead of complaining, blaming others, and saying you should do so. Right? This happens in many companies, right? Senior leaders make only the critical decisions. Stop micromanaging. You need to focus on empowering and encouraging decision-making down the line. The output to all of these is the triangle, the culture. So, step two is, as an organization, we need to identify what are the behaviors that we need to change to achieve our vision. Once you do that, here's how they all come together. So, we have our behavior, our impact, our behavior. You take the impact here, and you start to look. What needs to change from leadership style, behaviors, habits for this impact to be achieved? What needs to change for our strategy to achieve this? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And once you do that, you create a roadmap. You put all of your different impacts here, and you start to put your output here. Does that make sense? And keep in mind, the current focus of many companies is right in the middle. You need to understand that the two sides, leadership and people, are stronger. It's transformational education. Here's the thing. I can tell you to change behavior all the time. But all it takes is this. I think in a certain way. I have a certain mental model. If I can shift that to see the world in a different way, my behaviors will automatically shift. How do you make this shift? Education. You ask powerful questions. You talk about things. You bring these examples. Education is so powerful. Yet, where I see most people focus is on the things we do. And so, here's a resource for you. If you look, what do people need to learn? This is all for free. I'm not selling you anything. Go to icagile.com. There's a set of learning objectives. What do people need to learn? What do people need to learn in talent management, in marketing, in product ownership, in engineering, in coaching? What do people need to learn? Because when you learn, you change the way you think. All right, I'm going to wrap up. So, keep in mind, doing is different than being. The value, the Copernican revolution, if we want to stay alive as an organization, we shouldn't wait 270 years. We should figure out that we have to focus on our customer. And to focus on our customer, we have to have a culture of learning. And at the heart of a culture of learning is being agile, being flexible to accommodate the learning. Here's your recipe. Create the vision. Understand what it looks like. What does your company, how you work, look like in 5 years from now? Create a picture that inspires the hearts and minds. Then identify the gap. What are the behavioral changes we need to do? And then create a culture roadmap that includes leadership, strategy, structure, processes, and people, all of them together. And that's your change roadmap. But I'll leave you with my final piece of advice, because I understand that many of the people in this room here may not be the executive leaders that will actually create this vision. What can you do today? Number one, grow and learn. You can practice a growth mindset. You can practice it at home, at work, it's a muscle. But grow and learn. There's so much to learn about Agile and agility. Number two, create more strawberries, right? Create examples of success in your organizations. Because there will come a moment where when the executives say, yes, we're going to do it, they're going to look for examples. Because to create that strawberry jam, I have to have strawberries. And number three, and I cannot emphasize this enough, be patient. Find the right time to educate up. It's very hard. But you need to have been educated and grown yourself, and then find the right time. There will be a moment where you're in front of your boss or your boss's boss, and you can ask a question, or forward an article, or talk about something that may shift their mind. And when that happens, the transformation can start. So this is a little bit of my advice on how to do this. And kamsa hamida.